All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session from EasyPark. We're going to talk about the scaling successes. In this session, we're going to walk you through about our growth journey, the challenges we're meeting, especially on the data end, and how we handle those challenges. Oops, wrong side. No? Yes. All right, so today I'm here with two of my colleagues. So my name is Jing, and I'm the head of analytics at EasyPark. I joined EasyPark almost 5 years ago as a data scientist, and now I'm leading the analytics function at EasyPark.
Hi, my name is Doreh. I joined EasyPark about a year ago, and I'm leading the business analytics team.
Yep, and my name is Sindhusha. I've been in the data field for the last 6 years, but I'm a very new member of the EasyPark team, and I've been here for 8 months, and I work with them as a data.
Yes. All right, so first of all, a little test. How many of you have actually used our app to do your parking? Oh, great. And one more question, and I promise this is the last one from me. How many of you actually work in the data field? Well, pretty good. Thank you for coming here. Yes, so for the people you don't know us, EasyPark Group is a startup from Nordics, and it was founded in 2001. And our headquarters is in Stockholm. Currently, we have more than 1,000 employees all over the world. And actually, it's a very diverse group, so we have more than 70 nationalities in the company. We have roughly 40 or a bit more than 40 million yearly users that are using our app. With last 20 years of experience in trying to innovate in the parking payment domain, we actually have a very rich product offering. So the app you use, yes, is our primary product, but it's not the only one. We also have a product offering for businesses, and also we work with cities and municipalities and operators, providing parking management and insights and helping them to optimize the city planning. Yes, so EasyPark is one of the global leaders in mobile paid parking domain. As I said, we started in the Nordics. We grow more south to the rest of Europe, but now we're covering different parts of the globe. We're actually having our services in more than 20 countries, and we have our services available in more than 4,000 cities, and we collaborate with more than 5,000 parking operators, not only in Europe, but also in Australia and the UK and the US. Our vision is to make cities more livable. So you might ask, okay, your parking payment app, how is your relationship? How do you actually reach the goal or vision of making cities more livable? And especially, what is the data role there? So we actually start from our business. We're actually a two-sided marketplace. So we have customers from downstream, that those are private parking, let's say, private drivers like you, like myself. And we also have downstream customers there are business companies. But we also have one big part of our customers there are actually our upstream customers. Those are cities, municipalities, and operators. We offer different products to them. They have different needs, right? With our services, cities can actually do better resource allocation and planning strategy so that they can improve the parking space distribution. They can reduce the potential traffic lot so that you don't have to loop around in the city looking for a parking spot. And they can optimize their space planning for better living experiences. Well, with our services, all the private drivers, you and me, we will have a much better parking experiences. From quickly finding available parking spot to pay your parking in a more smooth way, and you're actually paying for exactly how much you're parking there down to the minute level. And we also help you to reduce the risk of fines, and you get notified from parking be expired, etc., etc. So our goal is actually to use data to learn from each other side and optimize our services for each other side. EasyPark Group has been listed as one of the fastest growth company in Europe last year. We have 60% or more than 60% 5 years compound annual growth rate in terms of transactions. It is very exciting to be part of a journey that has such a fast growth rate. but it's also very challenging. So here I'm going to walk you through a few challenges that we have due to the high growth and together with sometimes mergers and acquisitions. What does that mean for us working in data, right? So it definitely creates more complex operations. Think about the parking business already. In every country, there are always different local policies, different regulations, and now we're expanding to outside Europe. They are also coming with different laws and a different culture as well. People living in the US definitely have a different relationship with their cars compared to us living in Europe. And because of merging different data from different parts of the business, the complexity of the data is also becoming bigger and bigger. And data often is being treated as a byproduct because we are focusing so much on the growth, how to push for the next milestone. Data might be ignored sometimes. And definitely with more and more internal stakeholders, our colleagues, and we have increasing the amount of data needs. And sometimes because data is being treated as a byproduct, we are facing with a low quality of the data. And thinking about the mergers and acquisitions, and we are building a data culture, and then someone else comes into the group, and we integrate, and we're having inconsistent data cultures. So all these actually are challenges for us who are working in the data teams, because our mission in analytics is to empower our internal stakeholders with data so that they can make the most data-informed decision and they can drive the growth journey in a more data-driven way. But how do we scale under such a situation? We actually set us up as a centralized analytics function. So in the core of this function, we have 4 different analytics teams, each team focusing on a different area within data analytics engineering, offering the data models, product analytics, empowering all the product development and product managers with data, business analytics, trying to enhance the self-service of analytics, and the data science to provide an innovative data product to help us to automate or transform the growth journey. Well, on the other hand, one level up, we also have analytics missions. So remember I said we have 3 types of customers, right? We have private drivers, we have business companies, and we also have cities and municipalities and operators. So each of the analytics missions are in charge of the analytics for the whole customer journey for each type of the customers, from acquisition to retention. And the goal here is really to build a bridge between data and the business. And we can facilitate the collaboration across different functions. And then now we're leaving the analytics organization. In the business, we identify data ambassadors. Those are the people who are skillful, they have an analytical way of thinking, and they are interested in data. But they also stay in the business domain. They know their business domain inside out. So we identify them as data ambassadors. And together with other key business partners, these are our allies, let's put it in this way, that they bring us without noise what is going on in business. And then we bring them through training, through collaboration, through knowledge sharing, that what is going on in data and how do we help each other work together. And through this kind of amplified effect, then we can actually serve the rest of the organization with a manageable size of a team. So such setup gave us several advantages, starting that we become a center of excellence so that we can stay neutral and focused. This is actually very important if you're working in data, because you want everything to be less of an opinion, more of an evidence. So staying neutral and focused actually is very, very important for that purpose. And we are able to collaborate globally with high efficiency because we have people coming, actually belong to different parts of the local offices in this team. So we work together very tightly. And in the team, we actually have people from very diverse backgrounds. So we can actually leverage this advantage to set up our best practice coming from different industries, learning from different part of the business. And we also set up together jointly with the data engineering team that to try to push or promote the data responsibility not to stay in data and analytics teams. Is the whole company's responsibility. For example, we set up a data contract with our data dev teams, and they are the one that produce the data, so they need to be responsible for the data quality. So we try to move away from everyone thinking, okay, data quality, that's data team's responsibility. No, this is everyone's responsibility at EasyPark. And in the end, what we want to achieve is to make data relevant across the whole organization so that we can have a more smooth collaboration. In our journey of trying to scale under these challenges, actually enable self-service analytics to the maximum that we can is a very important part of it. So now I'm going to hand over to my colleague Doreh to tell you more about that.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Jing, for the great introduction to both our business and the different things that we're facing. So we talk about right now self-service and the question, why self-service? What about self-service would help us scale? And we found the self-service solution to be really relevant because at EasyPark we have 3 values, which are be curious, go inch by inch, and play together. And actually a self-service analytics solution is perfect for this because we expect the stakeholders and the end users to be curious. What do they want to find out and why? What are their problems in data and how can they solve them? The next step, play together. They should get their hands dirty in the data. They should see how it looks like, see how they want it to look like if there needs to be changes. And they should also go inch by inch through an iterative approach to really find what they need to find and help answer their business questions. So this is why we chose self-service as our solution. And this is what we aim for, is to make this scalable across the organization, that at least in every department has several business users that are really equipped to be able to use this self-service solution. But of course, with anything, there are a lot of challenges as well. So I'm the business analytics lead. It's within one of the teams that Jing was describing originally. So we have 4 teams, and within business analytics is the team where we're most in touch with the self-service solution. So how do we exactly come to handing over to stakeholders with the self-service? Usually when we're faced with a business problem, we have to do a little bit of the analytical exploration ourselves. We have to understand what is the need, what are the data points that we should include, and how can we design something that the stakeholder is going to be able to use. In our business, we're using Looker as our main visualization tool, but I think this would apply for any tool that you want to use. So we look at the need, we look at the problem, we try and set up the data and help them take that first jump off the springboard to say, here it is, here's your solution. Then we go through a handover process, training of the stakeholder. How shall they go into Looker and retrieve the information that they need? Have their business questions been answered? And then we go on to the next step of managing the self-service analytics solution. So once the stakeholder is all set and they have everything they need, of course, this won't last long. Tomorrow they'll come back with a new product feature or something else that they really want to find out that the top management is asking right away today, we need to know this now. But with self-service analytics, it's not feasible for us with so many different stakeholders to go in and design these ad hoc analytic requests on a day-by-day basis. So rather, we think about how can we better this original solution we came with, add more data points to it, add different visualization types, and really train to the next level to get that handover and get us more into the position of managing self-service so we can reuse what we've already created. So some challenges that we face, and I saw quite a lot of people are actually already working in the data and analytics space. Probably we share quite some of these challenges. Number 1, too many requests. I think that anything that has to do with data or analytics at all can tend to land in our laps. That can be anything from extracting lists to very particular requests that are not analytical at all. So we have to kind of start filtering out which requests are going to be most valuable for the business. We also have some legacy stakeholder expectations. And what I mean by that is somewhere along the line, some years ago in the business, somebody promised that this team would be doing this, and we were doing it, but we realized, oh, wait, this maybe doesn't fall into the scope of our team, or maybe this limits us from actually being able to do more analytical solutions. Changing priorities in the business. So I think this goes for any business as well. Today, the priority might be retention, whereas tomorrow it's growth. And as an analytics team, we need to be able to respond to that and say, okay, how do we actually design and focus on growth instead of retention, for example? Lack of business processes for new situations. So again, with the mergers and acquisitions, or basically anything that comes up, lack of process can lead us to some slow development. We need to not repeat ourselves. Processes are something that take the work off of the brain. And if every member of the team has to learn the same steps to go through for every unique situation, it takes a lot of time away from us. So we try to set up processes to address that. And then, of course, like everyone, technical debt, data quality, those types of topics creep in, and you need to maintain your data, and it takes quite a lot of time. So these are really the things that have gotten in the way, or we try to solve when it comes to self-service. How do we solve them? So we have some specific focus areas that we try and gain the most value out of to really solve these challenges, and one of them is teamwork. I've seen a great success in the business analytics team in the past months when we work in a team. Other members of the team know what you're working on. They're able to give you that technical know-how. They're able to challenge you. They know your code. So when you leave whatever you're working on, somebody else can go back and say, oh yes, I understand this. Comes directly to the point of documentation. I think there's a tendency all over that we can be a little bit slow with documentation, but this is a point where we really try to build up and make sure everything is well documented enough that if somebody else comes in and reads, they don't need to take a lot of time to understand what exactly are they looking at and why. Clarity and accuracy. So this is referring to our self-service tool. We want the self-service solution to be very clear. The stakeholder should not go in, or the end user, and be confused and say, what is this? I don't know how this relates to the data point I'm trying to access. So naming schemes, having things be clearly labeled, knowing where to find what you need to find. These can all encourage the stakeholder to remain engaged in this space instead of simply getting frustrated and leaving. So this is something I think happens as well quite frequently, is people might become discouraged by how big and scary data is and it's hard to work with. Whereas actually, if you make it clear enough, if you do training and communication, you can expand the array of people that are using data within the organization. So our methods to scaling, and what have we done specifically in order to really expand? One is the knowledge sharing and exchange. So this has been really important. Some members are maybe more skilled in SQL, others are better at understanding the business logic, and teaming up, working together is something that can really help to widen scale. Doing an inventory, what do we have? As our business grows and the amount of data and the type of data we have grows, we need to keep this constant inventory. And it's similar to maybe what you do at home when your sock drawer is a mess. You go in and you can't find your 2 matching socks. Same in data. You need to know which socks you have and be able to match them up appropriately. Again, with the documentation, and I will die on this hill with documentation. Keep documenting things. It's the most important thing you can do. And another key aspect is, of course, when we set our priorities together. If we don't have priorities and strategies set on a team level at the beginning of the quarter or whatever time frame you work with as a company, it can become very challenging to know what task over the next, especially, as we mentioned, some challenges are too many tasks. So if there's too many and the priorities are not clear, you can easily end up focusing on the wrong thing. So additional processes that we really focused on is figuring out how do we train our stakeholders in a sustainable way. We've done very many different methods with this, including everything from one-on-one to wide-level training, where they need to go through several steps. So this is something that has been very successful and we've gotten a positive feedback on, is the training from stakeholders. The support, we actually have a Slack channel for those Slack users out there called Looker Community, and this is where most of our users come when they struggle with the self-service. And we expect not only that we provide the answers, but actually that business users jump in as community members and help each other out. Hey, I needed to find that question out last week for my B2B related problem. Maybe it relates to you in some way or another. Frequently encountered scenarios. Referring people back to the documentation, again, instead of coming and assessing and thinking, we can say, we've scoped this problem and we've had this request before. Please read through this page to either follow the procedures and actually get the next step out of it, or understand why we don't serve requests for certain reasons. And then, of course, back to the direction. Our priority setting and the need to have our pull requests and our code clean really keep us on a basic level to be able to go the next step. So these are all processes that are really relevant for my team, specifically in business analytics, and I know a lot of them also fall into the other teams. But there's a lot, not only on a team level with processes, but that individuals themselves can take on to make sure that we're working in a scalable way. And therefore, it's my pleasure to hand over to Sindhu, and she's going to tell you some examples of that right now.
Thank you so much, Doreh. So, as we've been talking, Jing has talked about how the analytics team in general is set up for us to deal with the growth, and Doreh has been talking about how the business analytics team has been trying to deal and empower our business while we're growing so fast. So I thought it's also important for me to bring in a perspective of an individual person in the team. Sometimes it might feel like I'm just one person amongst 50 other people. What can I do? How can I change the way people think? And my 8 months working at EasyPark noticed that there's a lot of things that you could do as a person to widen the way you think, to bring in a broader perspective and kind of take the changes in the organization to your stride and also use it as to your advantage, basically. So we've seen a version of this in Jing's presentation before, so I just wanted to bring it back and talk about the fact that I sit in the data science team, which is a very central team that, as we talked a little bit about, we are dealing with different departments, different stakeholders, so we are kind of like a shared resource. No one really owns us. We kind of work towards the whole organization, trying to see how we could help them, along with the mission owners trying to support us. And when we're working with data, I think there are a couple of things that are really important to set yourself up for success. We are the people that are closest to the data. We know our data. We know what are the limitations, what are the issues with the quality. And I think on top of the data, it's also really important to bring in the right skill set. And when I'm talking about skill set, it's not really the technical know-hows, but the domain knowledge. I think today, where we're talking a lot about AI, and AI is gaining a lot of traction, it's important for us to know that you could always train a model to do something better than a human, but you still need a person to give them that context, that special human touch for them to understand how it's really relevant to your business and your particular domain. So we're really talking not just about technical stuff, but also the understanding of your business and how that works. And we're we're far away from actually automating that or teaching AI that as we are right now. So that's a great way to form a skill set for you that you're working with data. And the third thing, and the most important thing, I think, is to have the right mindset. And when I'm talking about mindset, what I'm talking really about is the 3 C's, which is curiosity, creativity, and critical thinking. So we are the people that are closest to data. Of course, we understand our data. And when we're talking with our stakeholders as a person, sitting in these meetings, trying to form requirements and trying to scope your projects, I think it's always important for us to have the data at the back of our mind, kind of ask questions about how we can solve things in a different way. And I would say in no matter what organization we work with, we never have the right kind of data, not in the proper format, never in the best quality possible. So it's very important to get creative with how we are able to solve our needs for the stakeholders. And don't be afraid to challenge the know-hows, to challenge the things that have always stayed there because it's a gut feeling from someone else. I think from sitting with the data and having the data perspective and always bringing the data to back you up on the different perspective you bring in is going to be important when you sit and talk to your stakeholders. What I wanted to talk about a little bit is a project that I've been working on here at EasyPark. This is a project for something called a lifetime value. I'm sure all businesses have a version of this that you kind of use. And what I mean by lifetime value is we're trying to give a monetary value to your user, to your customer, and trying to figure out how much someone is going to bring you back in terms of revenue. Why we do this? Because we want to really kind of within the big population we have out there, we want to niche ourselves and find the right kind of users for your service and for your business. So when I started at EasyPark, this was my first task. I was like, hey, we've got a lifetime value. could you make this better? So how we did lifetime value at EasyPark when I started off is that we looked at 3 components. We looked at how often someone parked at us, and we called it stability. We looked at what was the probability someone with a particular stability segment would come back to us and park with us the next year, the next 2 years, or the next 3 years. And the third component was a little bit looking at what they bought us in the revenue last year. So we had this approach that looked a little bit into the history and also was a way of calculating what they would bring in the future. So when I started with the project, I started with a very fluffy idea with something said, hey, can you make this better? And while I was talking to my stakeholder, which was marketing at this point, I kind of started asking the questions, what do you mean better? What can I do for you here? And then when I started talking to them, these were the kind of questions they were asking me. They were like, hey, where do we get our greatest ROI? What kind of campaigns can we run? Can you tell us who are our most important customers? Can you tell us if there is a certain kind of loyal customer we're getting? And this was also the time where our organization was shifting, we were changing, we had the mission set up in place. And while I was dealing with this change, I realized what we're talking here is quite central to the business. It could have started off from a marketing request, but if I try to think a little bit bigger and be creative with my thoughts, this is a value that we could use within the app team, the distribution team, and a lot more bigger scope can be brought in. So then I'm not just talking to one team here, but more making this a more business central value. And that is the kind of setup that we have currently in place. So even though this thing started off as a, this is not my latest presentation, but I'm going to go with it. So even though this started off as a marketing request, so we kind of brought in the mission setup in place, and then we tried to bring in the bigger scope, tried to bring in the know-hows and the knowledge from the product team, the distribution team, the app team. We also then end up creating a feature set. So we're not just looking at the value of a user and what they brought in, but we are like, hey, I think the main idea and the thought here that will help most of these teams is to characterize this user. What behaviors do they have? So we kind of came up with an idea of, let's create a feature set that would bring in these characterizations into place. It's always important to iterate small, as Doreh mentioned, inch by inch. So we've kept the good parts of the last version of the LTV, and we're kind of in the process of iterating it, making it better and better. In this process, we've also begun to start to increase communication with the teams, because we realized that before, this value was something just marketing was using. But when we started talking to the product teams, the distribution teams, we're sitting on this common platform where now multiple people are not only discussing their ideas, but they also start to realize, hey, we think this is important as well. Oh, there is a version of that we're using in this other team as well. And then the conversation of what kind of KPIs do we work with? Do they make sense with each other? Can we make them make sense with each other? So when we are growing as a business, I think this is really important, because you start to see where and how the process flows. You could be the person in the middle there trying to help people work together, redefine KPIs, if that makes sense, so that they flow end to end much better. And also, by this way, you're also having a sense of ownership, because when multiple teams are starting to talk to each other, they can be like, this is a great part, but I think we're in the beginning of the funnel, so let us take ownership of this, and then we're going to flow it over to the parking team that can do the other part of here. And you can kind of be the person that equips the other teams with this and also facilitates the other teams to do this kind of conversation. Because I think everyone would love to have data backing their up, and we sitting in the data team in that special position can enable more and more people to kind of have that conversation there. Which brings me to my fifth and the final point, is that it's very easy when your team is set up with this growth mindset to take most of your projects from an individual stakeholder to more cross-functional projects. So by doing that, you're kind of setting yourself up for success, in the sense that when your organization is growing, your project could have started off as a small request, but you're thinking more about the future, how you could grow, and also already laying the stones from people talking, from uniform KPIs, to set yourself up for when things grow, you can grow along with that. So if you have a few things you can take away from this talk, I think I'll have Jing sum it up for us.
I'll stay here for the people online as well. Yeah, I think in the era like this, data is in need everywhere, and everyone is asking data team, what can you do for us? How can you solve this problem for us? It's very important to know that how you want to scale, unless you want to grow a massive size of a team, you really need to turn yourself from a supporting role to a value driver. Right. I think Sindhu's example is exactly a good illustration for this. You take a request, but you don't stay with the request. Take a step further, take 1 mile further. What is the value I'm driving here? What can I serve for the business? It's not only from the request, it's actually go much bigger than that. Then you're actually solving lots of future problems already now. And the other way is that, yes, for teams to work, as I said, it's very important to stay mutual and focused. Then the right processes and set the boundary. And then if you're trying to solve all the problems, in the end, you realize that you can't solve any of them. So set the right boundary, set the process so that the team can stay focused and stay neutral. And find and train analyze in a business. As I said, data needs to be made relevant everywhere. It's not only relevant in data teams. Find allies, let them understand the data plans, what is your strategy, what is your roadmap. Let them bring in their know-how so that we can work together. And in the end, that always work on the mindset, because the human is always the most important part of this scaling journey. So that's sort of our story to share with you today, and thank you very much. If you have any questions, happy to take them. Yes.
Can I just repeat that so maybe the online people could have
Yes,
heard that as
good
well?
idea.
So the question is that what is the difficult things that we face to bring out these changes out to the rest of the organization?
I'm happy to answer that. I think that there are certain circumstances where functions have kind of started along on their journey and they know what they want to have, and they've started to define that within their own functions, for example, B2B or B2C. And sometimes those two things don't quite align with one another. Like they might have this, as you talked about, lifetime value. Two departments might view that very differently. So it comes into our position that we need to start getting, the right definition out there and create that alignment among the business. And actually, this is something that I was just thinking in your talk. We haven't talked about that so far, but actually last week we were talking about how do we add the LTV into which self-service solution so people can start to access it. So definitely communication is a huge one. I think that it can be easy to not be proud enough of your work to put it out there, but everybody really should be of these inches. And this is the value of continue to share. And the documentation, again, hey, look at this work we did. Look at how you can benefit from it. And just keep communicating. See somebody for a coffee and say, hey, did you know what the lifetime value of our users were? We just did some new stuff on that. So just keep communicating, and getting people more friendly to use the data is a big step there.
Yes. Okay. The question is about the prioritization framework. I think
do you want me to do it?
Since you're on the team, is the best.
Yeah, sure. So as Jing was depicting there, we have something called mission owners. And those mission owners really give us the complete picture from B2B, B2C, B2P. And through that, they actually see this whole funnel of what's going on in those certain segments. And we rely on them greatly to help us prioritize what's the most important things for those missions. So to do the prioritization setting, we do it on a quarterly basis. And we, aside from stakeholders that are maybe not so directly covered in the missions, we try to sit together with mission owners all together in one room with all missions and go through the requests, see where the synchronicities are. Can we combine two requests into one and make it something bigger and more scalable for the business? Where can we push back? How do we define our scope? Does this fall within our scope? And then, of course, again, on the communication piece, keeping in circle with the stakeholder and other departments that they're really aware of what we're focusing on and why. And I think that communicating this over and over again, checking in on a regular basis, are we staying on track with our priorities, yes or no? It's very easy with the Looker community channel for us to get a little bit distracted sometimes. But we do revisit those priorities as a reminder, regular basis. Are we working on this, yes or no? And if we're not, why?
Yeah, just to add there, I think it's also very important to always tie it back to your priorities, back to your strategy. As I said, this is a very important part of the recipe, that you're not viewing yourself as a supporting center. And then you become a cost center. You're a value provider, right? Then you should have your own strategy. Of course, you need to have a strategy that is fully aligned with your overarching business strategy. And then once you have your strategy, you know where you're going to, what are the most important things you're driving. Then with the mission owners and team leads, then we can keep a good balance. What are the things that are now currently needed in business? What are the things that are part of our core strategy and what we need to drive in data and analytics? Then the prioritization is about, what are we trading off here? So it's a lot of communication and discussion, but also visibility. When you tell your stakeholders, hey, I'm sorry, we cannot do this in this quarter. What is the reason? Because of this. If we want to do this, what are the things that we cannot do? Because you only have this so many pair of hands, right? You're not here to solve everything. So you have to prioritize. But then the prioritization is always backed up with strategy, with motivation, with the right reason there. Yes.
Oh, yes. Well, we've...
The question, can you repeat the question?
Yes, the question was, how do we manage the Looker community? And the different questions, if they go unanswered, like how do we basically make sure that that's a safe place for people to go to get their questions answered and to get the support they need? So we've been quite experimental with this, actually. We're still, I think, trying to find the perfect solution for our team. So earlier this year, we changed it to each person kind of has their own day of support. And of course, that comes with its challenges, but it's also forced us, I think, in some situations, to work with data sets that we might not have worked with before. Because, again, Looker is a huge thing for us. There's so many different data sets in there. And if somebody asks about a very particular one, then if the person on there is on the day doesn't know that, they need to go and take their time and kind of figure it out. So with Looker community, we do a form so stakeholders can be reminded to formulate their requests very clearly. Often they come without URL links or with abbreviations that you might not be familiar with. So we encourage this easy read of the request. State exactly what your problem is, what Looker Explorer you're using if you are using one already. And again, we try and tag other community members that might be able to answer those questions as well. So that's one of our biggest values, is actually not when our team answers, but when somebody from the business answers.
Those are our allies, right, from business. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so how to get allies? Yes, this is actually cooking in process now. For now, naturally, is that you know that who are more data capable, who are the people in the business that they actually have an analytical mindset. You work with people, you understand. Okay, this person actually asked the right question. This person actually thinking about data. So naturally, you work more. Right, with them, but we're also thinking about we also need to give something in return. So we're actually planning a campaign. So what is there for you to become our data ambassador? We can provide training, we can provide knowledge sharing, other things. So we want to make a win-win there. Yeah.
And I can add a little bit to that, is that I think a lot of people in the organization are generally very curious, very energetic, and always want to get creative and want to work with you. And sometimes I think the hurdle there is for you to understand they come from a very business perspective and don't really understand the data, but they're just eager to work with the data. And I think it is really, really good and important to just grab a coffee, sit with them, and try to understand what their perspective is. And it's just a matter of relationship building, because once you can communicate at the same level, and even though they're not talking data, you can understand what they're talking, I think they will become your champion, and they will be like, hey, the data team is amazing. And even though I cannot tell them what I really want, they can actually they would help us with it, and they're also very eager to come and talk to us and understand what we're looking for. So I think having that open communication, not just in terms of helping them out, but also just understanding, listening to them, is a very big tool and very important to kind of find those allies in the organization, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, the question is that do we work with qualitative data? Yes, we do. Yes, you're right. Most of the data we work with is quantitative, but we do have, for example, UX researchers, and they collect lots of qualitative data. We don't really work on their data, sort of like those transcripts and etc., but we do have a collaboration on the insights level, right? So we bring in the quantitative insights, they bring in the other side of qualitative insights. I think the collaboration there is a lot really in the product analytics domain, that where we work with them, and we have a common goal there, right? We try to understand our users better, right? So that's the collaboration, how we work together there. Yes. Yeah, how do we manage data quality? Should I start? Yes, this is a big topic. Manage, yeah, what do you mean by manage? First, what we start is really on the mindset side, is that data quality is not just data team's responsibility. Everyone, if you generate data, if you work as a software engineer, you're working for certain features and you produce data, you need to be mindful about the quality of the data you produce, right? So that's sort of just first set the tone. And we actually have this part, data integrity, to be part of our engineering principle global-wise. Now we identified ownership. Next step is to set up a data contract. So we have actually a data quality lead who is looking after this. We set data contract between the data provider to our data engineering team. So you have to have the right test to make sure that you are monitoring data quality. Don't ship out data that is not good enough. And then we also have data contracts between us in the analytics team to the data platform team or the data engineering team, is that if the data, in the staging model, they are not good enough, you need to write the right test and etc. Otherwise, we're not going to allow this garbage in, garbage out, because then everyone is just wasting time. So identify the right ownership and set up the process to help them, because otherwise they will say, oh, I'm a software engineer, I don't know how to work with data, but we identify tools and process to actually help them to do this together with us. So that really helps a lot. But we're really at the beginning of the journey. There's so much more there. Yeah.
Maybe to add something onto that, I think the mindset change also comes a lot from knowing when a feature is created. Before we start creating, we're going to need the data. Starting from that conversation of saying, okay, this is the direction we're going, this is the feature we're building, how are we going to measure if it's successful or not? Instead of having it be, okay, the feature's been out for 6 months now, is this data good enough for you guys to analyze? So really getting people talking about the data early on makes a big difference. And this also comes again with the legacy requests that I was talking about earlier. Sometimes there's a way around bad data. And sometimes you get into a routine because you found a way around the bad data to keep doing that. But instead to push back and say, yes, that we do have a solution. We found a workaround. We found a hack to still give you your analytics. But instead of doing that, we actually want to push for the data quality to be improved so we can do it the right way.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. Yeah. We also have a booth outside, so if you're feeling a little shy to ask questions here, or if you think about something later, please feel free to come talk to us there.
Yeah. Thank you all. Have a nice evening.